ti ricordi, devi rimetterli, altrimenti non lo so. Questo cambia in base a, non lo so, perché Restream cambia ogni 2x3, però proviamo a vedere.
Ok,
Ah,
adesso infatti sei collegato a YouTube. Perfetto.
perfetto. Ti ha aperto
Ottimo.
la cosa su YouTube, giusto? Non
Sì,
lo so.
e ci sei
Questo
tu.
cambia in base a, non lo so, perché Restream cambia ogni 2x3,
Metti
però
muto.
proviamo
Metti
a
muto su
vedere.
YouTube. Adesso infatti sei collegato a YouTube. Ah, metto muto. Ok, perfetto.
Esatto,
Si vede noi che
capito?
parliamo.
Esattamente, questo perché le persone semplicemente vedono quello che stai vedendo tu, lo vedono loro, ok? Va un pochino in ritardo ed è per questo che io metto sempre muto.
One. Yeah, I think you can join that one. Scusami.
Mhm.
It should be, oh yeah, this one because you're a panelist, so I think you received a separate one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ok, perfetto. Sì, siamo live anche su YouTube perché vedono me che parlo in questo momento.
Perfetto, fantastico. Allora non ti ha chiesto i 3 dati che
No.
evidentemente oggi non gli piaceva. Va bene, no problem, non è un problema. Però adesso tu sei su YouTube, quindi puoi tenere sempre YouTube aperto in modo tale che controlli, magari ci sono persone che commentano, robe del genere, per il resto.
Perfetto, ottimo.
Ok? Basta, Ila. Per quanto mi riguarda, non devi fare nient'altro. Adesso devi semplicemente, nel momento in cui inizi il webinar, fare inizia webinar in alto, come al solito. Ok?
Infatti dice su YouTube dice one waiting, quindi probabilmente perché non è comincia, perché noi siamo
Esatto.
in una practice session, quindi
Lo so, lo so.
stop.
Ok, perfetto.
Sì, poi si salva da solo, cioè io registro su Zoom e YouTube si
Sì,
salva da solo, devo
sì.
schiacciare qualcosa per
No,
registrare.
no, 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 si salva
A
tutto da
lui.
solo. Sì.
Perfetto.
Ok?
Su YouTube non devo fare niente, perché qua c'è create chat,
Niente.
join the chat, però non credo
Niente,
che... Niente.
niente, non fare niente, non fare niente. Semplicemente controllalo se magari fai la parte finale delle domande, perché magari ci sono alcune persone che possono magari aggiungere dei commenti anche su YouTube, quindi
Ok.
controllalo per sicurezza, però in realtà ti serve semplicemente uno per vedere che YouTube funzioni, due per vedere le persone che stanno vedendo perché lo vedi in basso nella finestra di YouTube, tipo 3 persone stanno guardando, quindi tu
Ok,
lo tieni a
va
mente
bene.
come tieni a mente i partecipanti, quante partecipanti ci sono, vedi tutto, ok?
Ottimo. Grazie mille, Chiara, davvero.
Figurati, Ila, non ti preoccupare, io sono qua e niente, a questo punto abbiamo già
Grazie.
finito, ok?
Perfetto, va bene.
Grazie.
Grazie.
Buon webinar!
Ciao, grazie.
Ciao ciao!
I
Um,
need to change my background.
wait, let me mute myself.
Oops.
I think, okay,
What do I need to do?
nothing. Oh,
Why is that still an echo?
try mute yourself.
Try now.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, yes, I can hear you.
I don't know. Manor, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you
Okay.
hear me?
Sorry,
Yes,
they
we
told me
can hear
Michelle
you.
can't
I will
access.
switch you.
Oh, she should have a panelist link.
There is two
I
links.
Yeah.
I think I joined through the panelist link, but let me double
Yeah.
check.
She can't join with the. I think I don't know. She's okay. She can't join. Can you see everything? Like, can you hear us and
Yeah, I can see. uh, Yeah, I can see you guys, and I have the Q&A section.
Why is it doing that?
Oh,
Okay.
Was that from my end?
Maybe. No, me too. Try speaking, Manor.
me?
Yeah.
Is this better?
Does it work now?
I
Because
think so. I think we're good
my
now.
mic is on. Maybe you should.
I've
Okay,
muted myself. That's why.
I see.
Okay.
Okay.
I can hear you completely, like clearly, and I can see the section for share screen, chat, Q&A, participants. So I'll keep an eye on everything and take some notes down.
Okay, perfect. Wait, Michelle wasn't able to join
Oh no.
for some reason. I sent her the. She'll probably join normally, I guess. I hate the technicalities behind things.
I know, I can imagine. To
Yeah, I sent her the right link. She'll probably, because you have, so she should have it on her calendar as well.
correct, but there's 2 links, so she has to
Yeah.
join the right one.
So she might be just able to join as normal, and then I'll make her a panelist.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Okay, we're on the link in the calendar. I might just start the. I might just start the webinar, and so I have time to make Michelle a panelist.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There are some people in the waiting room,
Okay.
but it's fine. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Michelle.
How are you?
Good. Yes, we can hear you.
Excellent.
I'm trying to have the same background. I was thinking, should I just remove my background? Then
It's a great background. I just don't have the option of it. Otherwise, I would.
it would be more similar.
Or you can send me your background and I can do it.
Oh, really? Can we send her the
Yeah.
background? How do I send her the background?
I can do that. I'll send it to Phoebe.
Okay, we send it to Phoebe now.
Okay, we'll give it a go. It might mean that I drop off and rejoin, but they're sending you a background, I think. Yeah. Echo. I've got it.
Hi everyone, for those who are here, we're just going to wait for another few more minutes for more people to join. Thank you very much for joining this call. I know it's lunchtime for many of you. We're just going to wait for another few more minutes for more people to join, and then we will start shortly.
Oh, is it I have green screen?
So hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. It's lunchtime, so really appreciate that everyone taking time, to join us in this discussion. I'm very excited about it. And maybe before I pass the mic to Michelle, I just do a quick introduction of myself. I'm Shi Yunn. I'm part of the customer success team here in the UK, where I partner with some of our largest enterprise clients in Europe to empower them to drive best-in-class corporate well-being program. I'm a mom of two. They are 7 years old and 4 years old, and I'm a big believer in how businesses can do better to empower women to thrive at their workplace. So today I'm very honored to be here with Michelle, who is the founder and CEO of Peanut. So we are here today to learn from her powerful story, including her journey as a female founder in this tech space, how Peanut can support women on all life stages, whether it's going through pregnancy, motherhood, or wanting to grow personally and professionally. So Michelle, if you don't mind, can you just give our audiences a brief introduction of yourself?
Hi everyone, and thank you so much. Thank you for giving up your own time to listen to this. And also for all those who are celebrating Happy International Women's Day, because obviously it's a clear passion of mine that whatever I'm doing is trying to make women's lives a little bit better. So I'm really delighted to speak to you today, and I'm super, super excited that Peanut is partnering with WellHub. And so thank you very much for that opportunity as well. I'm the founder and CEO of Peanut, and Peanut was really born out of an obsession with connection. So my previous background was making and being involved in the creation of apps that connected people romantically. And then I became a new mum, and my life completely spun in a totally different direction. I realized that actually what I didn't have was any village. I had no connectivity with any other woman who had been through the same thing as me, or who was experiencing the same thing as me. And there was a lot of information about the baby. There was also a lot of information about the pregnancy insofar as it related to the baby. But what didn't exist was anything to support me as mom, as woman who has gone through her own experience of becoming pregnant. And so Peanut really was about, how do I take everything I know about connecting people, apply it to a group of women who so need it, and give them a platform where they can learn, where they can share, and where they have their own space. And that might be about trying to conceive or other routes to motherhood, adoption, surrogacy, whatever it might be. That might be your pregnancy journey. That might be your newborn, motherhood of teens and beyond, and extending into perimenopause and menopause. Because there is one thing that is certain: a woman's life is punctuated by these key life moments, and it is much easier when we can do it with the support of other women.
Thanks, Michelle. I couldn't agree more. I just reflected myself when I found out I was pregnant 7 years ago. None of my friends were pregnant. And I still remember I cried so badly, knowing like how do I get prepared for a baby that's coming? And I still remember crying the day before I went into labor, because I was like, oh my gosh, like what's going to happen? And I was leaving, in a different country. I didn't have the family support, and how I wish I had like a platform like Peanut. So for those who don't have Peanut yet on your mobile phone, just take out your phone, download Peanut. So it's really interesting to see the interface. Like when I first saw it, I was like, wow, this is like a Tinder plus WhatsApp plus Instagram plus events, just for moms and those who want to become a mom, and also those who are actually already have kids and want to just find community near them to find support. And as Michelle said, we become stronger as we come together as a community. So I thought before we start our session, Michelle, so I thought of doing a few quizzes, because I think that within conjunction of International Women's Day, I just wanted to see how well the audiences actually understand female well-being. So what we have done is we collected some of these questions from the blog on Peanut website. So if you have never been to Peanut website, strongly recommend you to go onto the blog. It has lots of information, which are medically reviewed expert guides, tips, real life stories, and articles across fertility, pregnancy, motherhood, and menopause. So shall we start? So take out your phone. We're going to do a quick Kahoot. Michelle, you can join as well if you want. Those questions
Exciting, love it.
So we're just going to give everyone 10 minutes to join and see, whether you understand female well-being. I personally, when I was going through those questions, I actually didn't know the answer. So this was also a learning for me. Great, we have more people joining. Just going to wait for a while. We have about 70 participants here today, so I'm hoping to at least see 30 of you here. Great. I think it's so great that we also have some male audiences here. To empower women, we also need our ally. So to have male, joining this call to understand, how we can empower women in their workplace is really, really important. So I'm really glad that you take time to actually join us. Oh, Simran said you can't see the QR code. Sorry. Can you try the code? Yeah, you can try the game pin as well. Great, I think we can start. Maybe let's start with the first question. So let's see whether you can get it all correct. The first question is, how many eggs does a woman have at 20 years old? Michelle is trying to memorize. Is it 300,000 to 500,000? Is it 100,000 to 200,000 eggs? 1.2 million to 1.5 million, or 700 to 800,000 eggs? Great. Wow, not bad. We have 11 persons who answered that correctly. I didn't know this answer, so kudos to those of you who have answered it correctly. Next question. So with Jackie, the queen of Kahoot, of course. Jackie is also part of our customer success team here in the UK. So the next question is, which hormone is primarily responsible for regulating the menstrual cycle? Is it estrogen, progesterone, dopamine, or cortisol? I think we can go to the next answer. I think most people have already answered. This one was a bit tricky. I was deciding between. So we have 26. Correct answer. Congratulations. I was actually planning to answer the other one. So good job. Jackie is still leading the leaderboard. So the next question. What percentage of women experience postpartum depression, or what we call PPD? Over 50%, 5 to 10%, 10 to 20%, or 30 to 40%? Not bad. So it's about 10 to 20%. And that means 1 or 2 out of 10 pregnancy experiences that. But I'm not sure if that's something that, we speak commonly or we feel comfortable to speak about it. Which brings me to the next question. I think this is something that we also would like to know. How comfortable do you feel discussing women well-being topic at workplace? Very comfortable, neutral, somewhat uncomfortable, or very uncomfortable. And this is something that I hope it will also create awareness in terms of especially I think women, when we come to workplace, there are a lot of things that we do to shield what's happening behind the scene. Like for example, this morning, I was actually awake since 1:30 because my kids are not feeling well. So let's see the poll. We have about 31% somewhat comfortable, so that's quite good. But we also have about 13% who are very uncomfortable, dealing with this kind of topics at workplace. So that's something that, we might want to know, how can we actually help or empower them? Next question that we also like to know is, this is a multi-select question. Which topics are more relevant to you? Just so that Michelle and I understand, what's your interest, what are the topics that is most relevant to you? So is it pregnancy, parenting, fertility, community, menopause? It's time is really precious. So we just want to make sure that, we cover those topics that's most relevant to you. So there are 80 of you here. If you can just let us know what are some of the topics that is top of mind and you would like us to actually cover. Wow. Michelle, you have to cover everything. Seems like it's quite balanced across pregnancy, parenting, fertility, community, and menopause. And I'm glad because I think that's what Michelle and I are going to talk about later on. So let's start, right? I think Michelle, now that you have seen, the type of questions that people are interested, I'm just, maybe let's start with motherhood because I think you mentioned about motherhood earlier. Can you share more about specifically, your motherhood journey? I follow you on Instagram because I think that it was very nice that you actually shared the challenges of you trying to run a business, trying to be a mom, at the same time trying to, pregnancy, hormones, everything that you go through, and you share it, to create awareness. I think is important as well, and I'm just wondering how has that, inspired you to create Peanut? Because I think that's something that, maybe we can all learn from your experience.
So I think that prior to having my son, I really had no expectations about pregnancy or motherhood. What I had done very well is buy stuff. And I'm a very organized person, so I had a spreadsheet of stuff for this little Peanut, and it was called Peanut Spreadsheet. And it was nothing to do with Peanut the app. It was about what are the things that I think are going to make my life easier when I become a mum. And I read a little bit, I'd read a few books, but nothing really prepared me for the emotional and professional changes. So what I think that I wasn't really thinking about at the time that I knew I was going to have a baby was the impact that that would have on my relationships at work as a starting point. So I went back to work actually very early after having my son, so up 4 months, which if you're in the US feels like a long time, and if you're in UK or Europe feels too short. But that's what I did. And during that 4-month period that I was with my son, I had a really, really difficult adjustment in terms of who am I as a mother. I know who Michelle, the professional, is. I know exactly who I am in the C-suite of the business that I was co-leading at the time. I understood exactly who my identity was and what I was about. But Michelle, the mother, that was an identity that I had no idea about. I didn't expect prolonged periods of loneliness. I was used to being in a very high energy environment all day with lots of people around me all the time. And all of a sudden I was at home on my own with a tiny newborn, not really getting a huge amount of interaction back. So prolonged periods of loneliness, boredom, sometimes, I know when people don't often say it, but boredom, and anxiety. Am I doing it right? Am I looking after him in the right way? Is he doing all the things that he's meant to be doing? And what I didn't know is all of that really was wrapped up in some kind of very clear postpartum depression. It was a very, very difficult time, and I really struggled, and I'm not ashamed to say it, because when people say it's like a fog lifting, it's like a fog lifting. All of a sudden, all of the things that I knew I should have enjoyed, I could enjoy. And that took a period of time. So in relation to my professional relationships, I went back to work, and my very initial proposition was, nothing's changed. Treat me exactly as you did before. You want to do a call at 7 p.m? No problem, I'll be on that call. Even though I knew that was bedtime, I knew that I was on that bath bottle bed routine, but I still did it. And honestly, it was making me miserable. It was making my son miserable. And it took me a huge amount of courage. I was the only senior woman in the organization, and I was the most senior person in the organization aside from the founder. So you can see that all of these people who were looking at me were watching me as an example of, this is what you should do when you're a mother. And the example I was giving was completely the wrong one, which is pretend you're not a mother. Act as if nothing's changed. And that wasn't the case. So what I had to do with a huge amount of courage is say, you can call me anytime, but I will be leaving the office. I will be going home and doing my bedtime with my son. Call me after 8:30. You can call me all night. I'll be awake anyway with him. But don't call me between that 5:30 and 8:30 slot, because I'm not around and I am only for him. And as soon as I did that, something changed for me. I think something changed for every other person in the business who thought, oh, right, that makes more sense. That's how you're meant to parent or mother and be in a senior position or be in any position. But it didn't happen immediately. It also meant that I stopped being invited to certain events. And at first I was like, oh, that sucks. And then I didn't really know, it's a combination of, I'm relieved I've not been invited because I want to be at home with my baby, but also I think I need to be there from a career perspective and a progression perspective, and an understanding of what's going on in my business perspective. I need to be there. So I had a lot of conflicting emotions. And again, that was just about me communicating and saying, hey, I have changed, but you should still invite me and I'll tell you whether I can be there or not. And so it was a lot about communicating. Now that is coming from a position of being senior and being able to do it. What about women who aren't in that position? Actually, what you need is advice, you need guidance, you need to be able to talk to other women so that you can say, what are you doing? How are you navigating that? Is that a conversation you've had at work? How did that go for you? And that's what needed to happen. When I had my daughter, Peanut was already alive and kicking as a business. So now everything was different, because now I have a business to run, which is my own. I'm not running someone else's business, which is what I was doing before. And when you are running your own business, of course, you're all in. You're all in. Of course you are. So my daughter came to the office, and I did all of the things. You know, I had a different experience. But what was most special, I think, about having my daughter is I already had the product that I needed when I had my son. So I could ask, how is everyone dealing with that? It was actually COVID. How is everyone coping with COVID? What's going on for, you know, how are you dealing with homeschooling or socialization of your baby when you can't go to baby classes or whatever it was? And it became a lifeline for me. So I would say that my experience of motherhood is probably typical in my first, atypical in my second. And now I have the great honor and privilege of looking at so many different examples of motherhood and routes to motherhood, or routes not to motherhood, but to other kind of key life stages. And I think the biggest, clearest indicator is peer-to-peer support, sharing, and content unlocks an entirely new experience that many women didn't know existed. As soon as you find one other person who has lived what you've lived, is living it, is 2 months ahead of you, whatever it might be, it completely changes your experience. And the most beautiful thing is that we all become experts in our own right and want to share. And nothing makes us happier than telling a woman who's a couple of months behind, this too shall pass. It's not forever, you're going to get there. So there is this just wonderful kind of sharing economy of taking support and advice, but also wanting to offer it too.
I was just nodding my head because, you know, as I listened to experience, I was like, you know, I was in Singapore when I experienced that. It's amazing how, you know, in the West and the East, the thought process, you know, the feelings are the same. Like, you know, when I got pregnant at work, I was the first mom. I had no guidance. I didn't know how to set examples in a team where, you know, when I go back, same like you know, I felt like it was really difficult to draw the identity of pre-mom and post-mom. And going back to work, I always feel like I need to prove that, you know, my post-mom identity, I was still like my pre-mom, and I was always torn in between in terms of guilt. And I think what you mentioned about 5:30 to 8:30 for those who are not parents, that is the most precious time that we have, because that's the busiest, right? And I've learned to draw the line, right? And even though I was pretty junior at that time, I had to draw the line with my manager and educate him like why, you know, it's important that I, you know, have that reserve for family. And I completely agree with you, because I felt the same way when, you know, all the post, you know, work event, I was stopped being invited. I feel so formal, but at the same time I was relieved, but I was like, I should feel formal because why am I not in this work discussion like meeting as well, right? And I completely agree that, you know, we need that peer and community to support each other, and to tell someone that, you know, who is not having enough sleep because the baby is waking up every 2 hours, that this shall pass. You know, days are long, years are short. So I think I'm just, you know, wanted to bring it back in terms of like, you know, beyond just motherhood, right? You created that platform that empowers women across different life stages. Maybe you can share with us, you know, what are some of the common struggles that you see in modern workplace, you know, among women, you know, that they are having to navigate, you know, and how Peanut has helped them.
So I think the most important thing is we've come so far. Even the fact that we're having this conversation today is incredible. I am so thrilled that organizations and such impressive and you know important from a meaning perspective organizations like WellHub are doing things like this. It's a huge step forward, and we must acknowledge that. When I started Peanut 7 years ago, this wasn't happening. Okay, we weren't having these conversations. You did not dare breathe the word pregnancy, let alone menopause, in a professional environment. So firstly, we have come so far, and thank you for the work you do in normalizing and legitimizing these conversations, because that's so important. What are the challenges that women still have? There are multifold, right? We still feel that we can't talk openly and honestly about certain issues. There is still a belief that some of these things are taboo. If you need time off because you're going through fertility treatment and you need to talk about that, what does that mean for your manager or people team who now have flagged and noted that you are trying to conceive and you're trying to become a mother? And what does that mean for your progression if they're thinking about the fact that you may take time out to do so? And I think that we're doing a lot of these internal calculations. Okay, that might reflect badly on me. So I think there's that anxiety. I think the next anxiety is that kind of, okay, now that I'm pregnant, does it stop for me? Maybe I've got HG and I am really unwell through this pregnancy, much more common than we really talk about and give credit to. What can I do there? How do I navigate this that no one thinks that I'm less committed? I love my role, I love what I do, but equally I need to look after myself during this pregnancy. New parents, I'm getting no sleep. It doesn't even have to be new parents, by the way. My 5-year-old was up in the middle of the night. So, but parents where we're dealing with so many caring duties as well. Do you have parents that you're also caring for? You're running kind of so many different areas of your life. We're spinning plates all the time. Do we have compassion for that? And if we talk about that at work, does that mean that we've got a flag on us which says, again, not that committed to the role because they're distracted by their personal life? And right into menopause, where you can be in perimenopause for 5+ years before you experience that full year of menopause. How do we even talk about that? Does that mean that we're at the end of the road of our career, or actually there are some very physical symptoms of menopause which may impact for a period of time our abilities? How do we communicate that effectively with someone who hasn't even understood what menopause is? So I think there's a lot of those, we're having those conversations in our head and we don't know how to approach it. And so a lot of the conversation we see on Peanut is related to us almost second guessing what other people are thinking about those kind of stages. The most progressive companies, the places where we see women finding their confidence, where they really feel able to own that moment, are the companies who not just have policies, although policies, yes, important, not just have partnerships or benefits through organizations such as WellHub, but actually who have the conversation and who talk about it. If you've ever been in a room with a senior person in your team and they talk about a health condition or a personal matter that they're experiencing, the relief that you feel is immediate, because all of a sudden you get the signal from that senior person, we're okay to talk about that here because we're human and we have these life experiences. So immediately that communication and being able to talk about it lets your team and your people know we care. We're there, and that is such a progressive step, and we see women talking about it really is important to them, that they can have those conversations. And then the next part of it is, and so what do we do about those conversations? And I think that's the most important part, where it's like, hey, look, we're giving you these tools. You might not always want to talk about all of this stuff at work, right? That it's not necessarily all for a professional environment, but we know that you do need to talk about it. Here's a platform like a Peanut where you can go and do that. And we're going to make sure that we're giving you that as a way for you to find that support, because we recognize you and your life and what you're really living, and we want to support it. Or that might be another product through WellHub, right? That kind of brings you and supports you along that way. Whichever way it is, that I think is the opportunity, and that's where we see the most progressive companies. But the challenges are definitely where conversation is not encouraged or is stifled, or simply that organizations do support it and they don't let their team know. Don't do it and then not tell them. That's the biggest gift you can give them.
Yeah, and I think yesterday Michelle struck me, we had our pre-alignment and you mentioned specifically on perimenopause. I think perimenopause is a topic that increasingly we heard a lot of requests, questions from organization, because that's the topic that has increasingly getting attention. And you mentioned a very good point, because you mentioned that, there's only a very small portion of female at workplace in this category, right? Which is why, because of natural attrition, and this is part of the ecosystem, right? When you have kids, when they're in teenager, whether they are in schools or they are in teenage years, they might need you more as they go, which cause that natural attrition, which is why perimenopause, menopause, even though it's such a natural conversation, but we don't hear it often. And I'm glad that, organization now are increasingly recognizing that, because we're trying to encourage women to stay on the workplace. And of course, this is a topic that is not a taboo anymore, right? I don't remember myself talking about this with my mom, right? About perimenopause, menopause, but I'm so glad that now even organization is looking into this and said, like, how can we better support? How can we actually create that awareness? How can we make people feel comfortable to talk about this at workplace? And I think there's still a lot of work to be done, but I guess all the awareness effort, like you mentioned, that was done by people before us, had really paved the way for us now.
I can't say enough that the challenge that we had previously, and we are challenging it and we're moving things forward, is that we don't see enough senior women who are experiencing that life stage, right? That the numbers reduce. We have a talent attrition issue in many different industries, because we must remember women are so important to the workplace, to the talent pool, and everything they contribute. And we don't want to see that attrition. We actually want to reduce that attrition. It's good for business. That, just as a fundamental, it's just good business to retain your talent. And so if there are these life stages, let those women know that we understand them so that we can retain them. That's a really important thing. And I think that I really cannot express how little we all know about menopause, actually, myself included, until we built this part of the app, because we're not taught it. This isn't something that, as part of we're learning about. We just about get told about our menstrual cycle at school, right? But we're actually not taught about this. And it is a biological certainty. If you menstruate, you will go through menopause. That is an absolute biological certainty. Imagine that we then don't educate women and empower them around that subject. That's a challenge. So I think, from my perspective, the more we can get women together to talk about it, the better. And that means that workplaces saying, yes, we have a policy, or we encourage this conversation, good. But actually, on a more practical level, I want to know that when the time it hits me, I can join the community of women, and they're going to say, oh, do you know what? I tried this supplement, it helped. Or I started running, that helped. Or whatever it might be. Follow this influencer, she's great. It doesn't matter what it is. I just want someone to give recommendations in the very same way I do around motherhood, in the very same way I did about trying to conceive. And it's just about that information share. And as an employer myself, the very best I can do is make sure that I say, and I signal, talk about it, I'm here for it, I want to talk about it, but also, did you know, here's a resource that you can use, and I'm really proud to support it.
Thanks, Vishal. And I think that brings us to the next question very nicely. I think there are many HR leaders here in the call, or someone who might be able to influence, the policies that they have in their organization. How do you think business can better support women's mental, emotional, and physical health? And maybe I just share from my own experience as well. In my previous organization, I was leading the parents and caregiver chapter. And one thing that we realized is, moms coming back from work, right? There are so many things that they need to be ready for. For example, having a nursing room. Do we have a nursing room? Do we have a guide or a playbook for the managers to manage female coming back from maternity? How to have that kind of conversation? For someone who is going through IVF, how do managers actually support, performance conversation? I think that's very important as well, and based on your experience, working with different company, working with different female community groups, how do you think businesses can better support, women in those aspects?
I think the most important thing, and you touched on it at the very start of this meeting, it's about all of us. It's not just a women-only sport. This is women and men in every workplace together, making sure that we have conversations. If it's not going to happen to you, it's going to happen to someone who reports to you, works alongside you, or you report to. And therefore, we all want to understand it, and we all want to learn how to work better together. So it's about encouraging the conversations, but also being very clear, this isn't a women issue, this is an everyone issue, right? And again, if you're ever questioning like the return, the ROI on this, it's just good business. You get more out of your team are happier, they feel more grounded, they feel more connected to your organization, retention improves. It's a very, very clear virtuous cycle. So I think it's about bringing everyone on the journey, educating everyone, communicating with everyone, and making sure that everyone knows that those conversations are okay to be had. And if that is not something that you feel comfortable in talking about, it's about saying, listen, I'm not an expert, but I do know that there is this pathway, platform, resource that exists. And that is a huge, huge moment for me as an employer. I know that when a team member gets access to something that solves an issue they have, you see a moment of connectivity where they go, you get me, you understand me, this is why I work here, this is why I love working here. And that's ultimately, again, good business. So the biggest key for me is including everyone in the conversation.
Thanks, Michelle. I think that's really important, to actually even start talking about it, to make people feel comfortable, vulnerable, that this is accepted, I'm having this and I can actually talk about it openly. And I'm just wondering if you can actually share with us, how Peanut, like platforms like Peanut, have helped women navigate major life transitions, whether it's motherhood, menopause, baby loss, those kind of even taboo topics like baby loss, right? If you can share with us, a few examples of how you have seen other women use this platform to help them to navigate these challenges or just different life stages.
Baby loss is probably a really good example. So something that is, and I'm going to align it for the purposes of this comment with fertility and trying to conceive. As soon as you are to talk about having baby loss in your workplace, you have immediately signified that you are trying to become a mother. And so I think that there is a real inherent anxiety about talking about it in the workplace. I think what Peanut does, and where we've seen just amazing stories, is where women are able to find another woman in an analogous company. And so we might take professional services, because this is the most recent example I've seen of this on Peanut. But two women working in analogous professional service environments where they need, actually for a medical reason, they need to have time off post baby loss. So that's not even dealing with the emotional side of what that entails, but actually for a medical procedure point of view needed to. And seeing this beautiful friendship develop where they support each other and coach each other through how to have those conversations and how to navigate, through to now both being pregnant again and doing that journey together, that's the kind of thing that is important, because it's very, very within anyone's contemplation, if you're nervous about having that conversation, that actually it's a high point for attrition, where women say, do you know what, I can't be at work while I'm trying to do this. I have to step out of the workplace. But putting women together enables them to have that conversation where they coach each other through it, and they both stay, and then they both go on and have that next life stage. So I think that's a really good positive example and outcome. I think when you think about other issues and other areas, it's actually the supportive environment of women talking to each other and having conversations. So much so that where a woman has said on Peanut, you know, I'm really having a hard time at the moment at work. I'm feeling really irritated by my colleagues. I don't feel like they understand, you know, and I'm getting all of these frustrations and really talking very openly. And another woman saying, hope you don't mind me stepping in here, but have you had your hormones checked? Because that was happening to me and I just, you know, I'm going through perimenopause. And it's that information share, because you're not going to say to your colleague at work, by the way, I'm feeling really frustrated by you, but you will go and tell another woman. And to have her help you and say, no, it's not work, it's hormonal, is a huge alleviation of pressure where you're like, oh, now I can get it's an epiphany. You can go into work and be like, okay, it's not you, actually, it's physically me. And you can start to try and get on top of it. So it's that. We don't all walk around our workplace with little signs saying, I'm trying to conceive, I've suffered baby loss, I'm pregnant, but I'm only 9 weeks. My child has speech delay. My mum is terminally ill and I'm trying to manage things. My hormones are wild and I haven't slept for 3 nights because I've got night sweats. We don't do that, but it's exactly what you do on Peanut, right? We do tell each other and we do signpost. And it's that which gives you the confidence to be able to be honest, to coach each other and talk to each other through these issues. Because as I said before, we all become an expert in our own experience, to be able then to approach the workplace with a renewed sense of, no, it's good. It's actually not this. It's something else that I'm experiencing. So I think they're the most exciting stories. And then we have amazing stories, right? And I could tell you all of the beautiful stories we hear all day, and we get so excited in my team, like we share them around each other. And that might be one woman who met another woman on Peanut. She then sadly got cancer and couldn't conceive her second child, and the woman that she met on Peanut carried her second child for her, right? A very, very, you know, I don't want to say extreme, but a very unusual case, but a beautiful case. Women who have become each other's bridesmaids when they've married their partner, or partners who have become best friends and found connectivity where they actually didn't have any friendship groups and tight connections. So the human interest element of Peanut is, of course, why we do it, right? We just want to make the world a little bit better than we found it. But actually, on a practical level, what it's doing is just solving and helping us troubleshoot solutions that we do in work every day. And it's just about troubleshooting your life.
Yeah, and I think ultimately we are all trying to, you know, make sure that everyone prioritize their well-being, including female, because I think it's very often where I think, especially after becoming a mom, you become a daughter as well. You do always look after other people, but what about yourself, right? I think having that, community, to remind each other that you have to look after yourself as well. So maybe if you can actually share with us, what are your top 3 tips, right, for women to prioritize their well-being in today's fast-paced world? Because I think that's very important. And maybe we can learn, a thing or two from you as well. Like, how do you actually prioritize your own well-being?
So the first tip is, there will be a time when you get space to yourself. Okay, and if you're sitting listening to me thinking, oh, well, no, actually, I do this on my own, I work, I'm a single mom, and, I promise you there is that time. There is 20 minutes when your kids are in bed where you've, run around the house and you've put everything away, or you've got the school bags ready for the morning or for nursery or whatever it might be. There will be a moment where you have 20 minutes, which is for you. In that 20 minutes, I dare you not to open Instagram or TikTok or your email, and I dare you to do something for you. And that might be, for me, I don't, it's very specific to me, but I have a dread of washing my hair. Washing my hair is so annoying because I have to dry it, and that annoys me too. But that 20 minutes, I get in that shower and I wash my hair, and that for me is where I can process the day and I think about things. And it sounds really silly. You're having a shower, good for you. But it's a moment. And that is my moment. And I shut that door and no one better come in when I'm doing that. And that is my moment. There are these moments and we can take them. And there's nothing wrong with owning that moment and saying, no, this is me. Don't, like, there's nothing wrong with that. If you are a brand new mum and you're in the throes of you've hardly even thought about a shower, let alone washing your hair, what is she talking about? The next piece of advice is it takes a village, right? We weren't meant to raise children on our own in isolation with no support. That was never the intention. And it takes a village. You will have at some point in your life done good for someone else. Call the favor back in. You're allowed to do it. It means that if it's another mum who can come and hold your baby while you make a cup of tea and stand in the kitchen on your own while the kettle boils, that's good. You can call in the favors. It takes a village. It was always meant to. Don't be afraid to ask. No one thinks anything other than they would be delighted to help you, truly. So ask for the help. Protect your time. Ask for the help. And then the third thing is, I'm still not good at this, so I am trying. So we're all a work in progress. But say no. You can say no to things. If there's something that is giving you pressure, anxiety, could be an extracurricular work pressure. It could be a friendship pressure. It could be a family pressure. Say no. I'm trying once a month to say no to something that I truly don't want to do. And I've always been someone in the past who will find a way. Yes, okay, it doesn't really suit me, but I'll do it. Actually saying no is the most empowering thing I've ever done, because it actually frees you up. You feel for that one moment in control, because a lot of what we do, particularly when we're raising small people or we're going through a female health issue, is not within our control. The say no gives you one moment in the month where you're in control and it's your decision. And it's incredible what, like, from a mental perspective, what that will do.
I love that, Michelle. And I thought that, we still have a lot of people here in the call, and I think you have listened to, Michelle and I discuss about, Peanut, about well-being, about how your workplace can support you. And I thought that maybe we can do a quick poll. I think that would be interesting for us to actually share this feedback with your organization as well. And I'm curious to understand, everyone has different needs. Everyone's circumstance is different. I'm just wondering, like, if you have, if just put in one or two words, how can your company better support you? You can just actually, join the Kahoot bag and just type your answers, in terms of like how the company can better support you. And I understand that we also have some male audiences here as well. Do they have to rejoin the Kahoot? Yes, so you probably have to rejoin the Kahoot. So just key in the pin, because I think that would be useful for us to actually give that feedback. Because I think, to Michelle's point, just getting people to talk about what needs to be done, creating that awareness is the first step, right? And I remember many, many years ago, IVF was still a big taboo. But because of the community group, right, sharing about the challenges of IVF, the challenges of baby loss, my previous organization started implementing policy to actually support parents in that journey. So I think, if you can just join back to this Kahoot and share with us, let us know how can your company better support you in your well-being journey, regardless, at life stages that you are or you think you might need, few years down the road. What are some of the support that you think would be useful? Or you can also put in the chat if you feel like, you just want to put a chat, and then we can pick that up. We're having a bit of a glitch on Kahoot. Ross said comfortable with setting boundaries. I think going back to the point that Michelle mentioned about, saying no, establishing healthy boundaries so that others know how to respect that. It's very, very important. Is there anyone else who would like to share or things that you feel have not been getting enough attention or awareness, but you think should be done? Yeah, if you can just type and let us know. And we will actually share this with the organization that we partner with, just so that they know that, this is top of mind. No, we don't have any answers. Okay, we might have some glitch here. Yeah, someone said, I'm the founder of my company, so I need to set the number of meetings and what I do and don't show up to in person. That's a really good one. So maybe, now is the time that we open up the floor for question. Michelle, if you have a bit of time, we have about 10 minutes for Q&A. I do see that we have a question from the Q&A. Feel free to put it in the chat as well. I'll just read it out. So I'll just read the one from Q&A. It's a question from Ross. Ross is also from WellHub. He's asking, and I'm glad that he's here. We need men as well to help us to drive well-being for female at workplace. So Ross' question is, my partner runs her own business and we're expecting to have a baby girl in July. How did you balance the need between running your own business and having a newborn? And as her partner, how best can he support his partner? Michelle, if you can give any advice.
Yes, I think that honestly, running my own business and having a newborn, how did I manage? Badly. So probably do as I say, not as I do on this one. The very early days, it was quite easy. I could take Nuala with me to the office. She was very portable, and she slept a lot. She was premature, so she was tiny, so she slept a lot. So that probably gave me a false sense of like, oh, this is going to be fine. Actually, I can do this. And then it was very clear pretty much from her kind of 3.5 months when she woke up, that having her in the office wasn't necessarily going to work for literally anyone else in my team, or for me. And so I had to do what I think is very important for anyone who can. I had to find resource to help me. So I'm in a very privileged position where I could find resource to help me, and that might be nursery, babysitters, grandparents, partner, whatever it is. When I said it takes a village, it takes a village. And so having that kind of adequate resource around me was really, really important. And that's the only way I could manage through it. From an emotional perspective, I think what my partner did amazingly well is reassure me. I was crippled with guilt. I felt very, very guilty that I didn't take her to baby massage, but he was taking her to baby massage. But I felt guilty if I took her to baby massage that I wasn't with my team, who were kind of at the coalface, really, driving hard for the business. And so this crippling guilt really resulted in him ultimately saying, you're doing an amazing thing and you're being a role model for her, because you want her to do the same, right? You want her to feel like she can build things and change lives, and therefore you're doing the best that you can, and like there is no guilt here. And also, what's wrong with me? I'm great at baby massage. So I think it was really about having the village, but then also being kind to myself and being given words of encouragement from friends and family who are saying, you're doing an amazing job. Because actually all we really wanted is someone to tell us that.
Yes. I I think Ross is acknowledging that. Lots of praises, lots of acknowledgement. We also have lots of comments on the chat box. Really appreciate that. But I thought that there's this particular one that I would like to pull out because we didn't actually talk about it that much. Specifically, this anonymous attendee said more support and acknowledgement for single parent who are doing it all on their own without a partner or family around to support. And I think, Michelle, if you can just share a bit more in terms of like how you've seen Peanut support single parent, because I think that is also something that as a society, we don't actually talk about that enough. And I, having a very supportive partner, already find it difficult. I just cannot imagine. I cannot even feel, put myself in a person who is a single parent.
So I mentioned it earlier about single parents because it is so important. We don't talk about it actually, and if we're going to talk about taboo and conversations that are difficult that people don't feel able to have, being a single parent I think falls squarely within that category. It's a very, very difficult position without support, and firstly, an incredible and amazing job, and they do incredible and amazing things. What is really important is giving single parents resource and access to support. And that might be a community of other single parents, because again, I'm going to keep on saying it, it takes a village, and you need to know how other people are making it work, right? If there is the conversation of I can only be what I can see, then I need to see examples of other women who are making this work who are also a single parent, right? So that's what we need. So giving them resource and access to communities of other single parents. We have single parent groups on Peanut, and they are amazing. These women are incredible together. They're very tight, they're very supportive, and we had a group on Peanut which just exploded out of nowhere. It was called Random Acts of Kindness, and women were sharing little gifts with each other. It was amazing. I'd never seen anything like it. And it was the single moms who started the group, because they understand and know how important it is to feel valued and feel seen and feel supported. And it was an amazing moment. So access to resources in that way, flexibility. Right, if you are mom and dad and everything in between, you need some flexibility and support, and so giving that flexibility and support is vital. And then making sure that they are aware of all the resource that is available. Right, if you have carer policies, if you have policies which are supportive, which they're not called single parent policies, but there is a policy, a people policy, an HR policy, which they can benefit from and be supported by, please tell them. Please make that clear. Please give examples of when that policy has been used and works. So I think that is how. But from a Peanut specific perspective, huge groups on Peanut of single moms, and definitely the most close-knit and amazing groups that we have.
Thanks, Michelle. I know we are almost running out of time. Is there a few words that you wanted to share with the audience here? We have quite a number of audience still here with us after almost an hour. Any parting words, for them?
I suppose the only thing to say is thank you for listening and being part of this, and thank you for caring enough about your teams that you want to come and hear about women. And women's life stages, and products like Peanut, which are here to support women and women's life stages. It's really, really amazing, and the amount of progress that we've made on that front it is incredible. So thank you so much. And communication is everything. You're doing something so great and so cool by enabling your team access to WellHub as a resource. And there are things within and products within WellHub, like a Peanut, which can really positively change their life. And if you don't tell them, they'll never know how forward-thinking and progressive you are. So please communicate and talk about it, because it's so important. And it's so cool, because I wish so much that this had existed when I had my son. And so it is such an amazing platform, and I can't stress that enough. Having been someone who was very, very instrumental in buying resource and support and benefit, something like WellHub, it would have been completely game changing just from a management perspective back then too. So you're doing something very cool, and I think you should shout about it.
Thanks, Michelle. And for those of you who have left a comment in terms of like how your organization can better support you, we will convert it into a word cloud and share it as a post read, right, to your HR leaders so that they know that these are the things that are top of mind in terms of like how we can better support you. So thank you very much for joining us today, and feel free to leave us any comment after this session. We're happy to take comments as well. You can just email us. Thank you very much for spending time with us, and Michelle for spending your wisdom with us. Thank you very much. See you
Thank
all.
you.
Bye.